All right, well, folks, welcome to This Week in Women's Soccer. Jeff Kassouf here with Cat Whitehill. Excuse my voice, excuse Cat's dog talk. We're here, we got a lot going on with NWSL, National Women's Soccer League, which is the name of the new league, which was not what was originally reported somewhere else last week. And we have some U.S. Women's National Team to talk about. And we've got a special guest for you, Leslie Osborne, coming on the show. Thank you to her. We'll have her on later on in the show. So first, a little bit of news to touch on. We've been talking a lot about team names, league names. I think we just need to touch on this and move on at this point because there's so much of it. National Women's Soccer League is the name of the league. Love it, hate it. I don't think it's that bad. I think actually, Trevor, I think we need to get this worked into the show too, my man, because last week there was one of us on this show calling for the league to be named NWSL. I think we just need a flashback to that more.
I don't remember that.
Let's kick to that real quick. I guess the best thing when I've been racking my brain on this that I've come up with, I guess you might not like that. I came up with NWSL, National Women's Soccer League. I mean, that was probably the best that I could do. But okay, so NWSL, I mean, I'm not going to take any credit for it, but that was my name of choice. So, yeah, you'll see, Kat. You'll see. But NWSL, and then we have Seattle Reign FC as the new team in Seattle, which I think was actually a pretty sharp logo. I don't know. Did you like what you saw out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty... I don't know. I mean, it was clearly very well done graphically. I know some people don't like it, but hey, a lot of people don't like, I mean, anything that gets announced like this is going to be a 50-50 split in my mind. So, Seattle Reign and then Cindy Parlow Cone, the great Cindy Parlow, as you might know her, named head coach of Seattle, or wow, don't kill me there, Rose City. Portland Thorns FC, Cindy Parlow Cone. What do you think of that one, Kat? I mean, she's another Tar Heel.
She is a Tar Heel, and I'm so happy for her. I actually talked to UNC soccer players. I talked to Anson, and I talked to her during the whole College Cup, everything, and they all were talking about how Sydney's been huge for them this year as players. Anson talked about how she was leading the practices for the team and how she needed to find a new team because she's ready. And, I mean, if that's coming from Anson, she's got to be ready. I just think she's going to be fantastic. She was always a great leader on the national team, even though she wasn't necessarily one of the captains or one of the older ones. She always had an edge to her, and I just think it's awesome for her, and I'm so happy for her. And her husband used to be a goalkeeper coach at Kansas City, John, so he has some, MLS background. Plus, he's super into this fitness stuff that he's brought over from England. So he can probably help out. I'm guessing he will. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing he's going to help out with fitness and everything. And I've run through a bunch of his fitness sessions, and they're pretty awesome because a lot of it has to do with the ball. And it gets you working, that's for sure. But it's a great hire.
Yeah, it's certainly a big name, and it'll be a new challenge for her, stepping up from assistant to coach in the professional ranks, but I mean, certainly Anson Dorrance is very high praise to be receiving. So best of luck to Cindy in Portland, and I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch with her quite a bit as the season goes forward. And I'm actually realizing the NWSL announcement is replaying behind me on the screen. So there you go. I like
the NWSL. I did say I didn't like women in there. But yeah. I don't mind the NWSL as your idea, maybe. I don't know if that's why I like it. But the W doesn't seem as dominant like it did with WUSA and WPS. Right. I think that's why I like it, because it's the second letter, and it's like NWSL kind of flows a little bit. So I like it. It's better than I imagined it to be.
All right. Yeah, I mean, with the report that it was going to be WPSA, I think that was really the opposite spectrum. So. Right. Excuse me. Good. NWSL is pretty good. I think that we need to jump right into the big subject at hand. U.S. Women's National Team players. Where do they fit into this new league in NWSL? They are supposed to be allocated within the next couple weeks, and that process is basically they write down their preferences, and then based on their preferences, somebody's going to get their first choice. Some people won't, and they are sort of distributed throughout these 8 teams, sort of almost the exact way, from what I'm told, that it happened in WPS. And it seems like it'll be a third party that isn't just the team saying, hey, we're going to take her, or the U.S. Soccer Federation saying, hey, we're putting her here. I don't know who that third party would be, but that seems to be where that's going. But the kicker here is that the U.S. women need to actually be 100% committed to the league, and I think that they are. But we had some interesting reaction coming out of Boca Raton, Florida on Saturday for their last Victory Tour game. Post-game, they were somewhere between mum on the subject and not totally committed. Let's take a listen to a series of interviews here that sound very similar.
Now looking for a couple more answers out of this league, just some more decisions to be made, so I'm looking for the next month or so to hear about that.
Are there 1 or 2 keys that you really want to see, aspects of it you want to see happen to make it work?
I mean, commitment all around is huge, but I think that, quality of training staff, quality of coaching staff, compensation, small things that really affect whether a person can live off of playing professional soccer.
I don't know that answer. I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
What would you? A couple of things.
I have no. Honestly,
because
it's happened 2 times. It's risen and fallen 2 times. So all the times, those 2 times I was wrong. We need richer owners. Period.
We of course expect a lot. There's a lot that we don't know so far, so it's hard to say what we expect out of it. I think having a league and having the opportunity to play consistently, if it's sustainable and it's something that's good for not only this team but for the next 100 players, will be good. We need to know a lot more.
When do you think you'll hear more?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I mean, I think they're trying to figure it out as well. So it's not like we need to know all by tomorrow, but the sooner the better, I think.
What needs to happen with that league for this time to work?
I think it needs to be on a smaller scale. I think they've tried to make it, fully professional, try to pay everyone big salaries. It needs to be on a smaller scale. Let people play in the cities where they live. Let people work, train at night or train in the morning. Kind of allow sort of the bottom tier of players to not have to make a living off it.
I think we're, if it works out, we're all excited and we're all for it, but we still don't know, all of the details, so we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, well, we're definitely excited about the league because we need a league to grow women's soccer here. We need, the next 50 to 100 girls to be able to come out of college and have a place to play, especially with an international coach coming in. More eyes. We have a great base in college soccer, but we need something more. So I'm very excited about the league. Very excited to be part of it. Don't know to what extent to be part of it quite yet, but that's still in talks and still negotiations, and we're very optimistic things will work out.
Would you like to play?
Oh, absolutely. I from being in the last two leagues and failing, I always want to be part of the next and upcoming league. So I want to do everything in my power to make sure this one comes back and it's sustainable and it's here to stay, and that's what we want.
So you can hear there, almost seems like a very coordinated message from this team. Very similar answers. The only word I've really been able to come up with is a little bit murky. I mean, it's very sort of hands-off. I mean, this almost seems to have gone, publicly anyway, gone backwards in how much they are sort of, all positive about the league. And I think they're positive, but they're kind of like, hey, we need to see what's going on first. And that's totally fair because there's still information that's not out there. But what do we make of this, Kat?
Well, I've sat in those meetings before, and I've been in meetings with U.S. Soccer about contractual things, and it's quite a process, and everyone knows how contracts work. It's annoying because it's one person claiming this, one person claiming that. It's not a fun thing to go through. But that's where the women are cautious. They're cautious with what U.S. Soccer is giving, what they're going to bring to the table, and they want to make sure this league is up to the standards, which totally makes sense. They want everyone to have health insurance. They want it to be properly coached, and you hear that all the time. You want to make sure that the teams are there, the competition is there, the coaches are there, everything is in place. And I understand where they're coming from, but the reason why you're hearing the same answer, because I've sat in these meetings, is because they've talked about it. They've had someone possibly from media talking about it. They've had the team leaders talk to them about it and what they should say at this point, because they still have to have some leverage with U.S. Soccer. They still have to, work out these contracts. And so they want to make sure that what they're saying is genuine enough for the public to receive it, because they are supporting it. But at the same time, they also have to be careful and at exactly what they say so that U.S. Soccer can't use it against them. So it's very generic. There's not a whole lot of substance to it. And I'm not surprised by it because I've been in those meetings. But I just hope that, by the end of the year or in the next, couple weeks after the first of the year, U.S. Soccer will come to terms with the team and that everybody will be on board.
Is it a real possibility that many, some, none, where do we stand in terms of how many of these players actually will not participate in this new league and will decide that it's better for them to go overseas?
I personally think that if U.S. Soccer comes to the proper terms with the team, I personally think everyone will stay.
Wow.
But I might be naive in thinking that, and I might be hoping for the best, because if I were a player on that national team, which I have been, I would want to make sure that America has the best soccer. And the only way to do that is for them all to stay here. And I know that there might be some quirks that may not be as desirable as they would like. Maybe not everyone does get a certain benefit as some other players. But at the same time, there are some growing pains to forming a new league, as we've all been through it. At some point, this is the third round. Mm-hmm. You just have to let it grow. And if you're starting from the ground up, you're not going to get everything you want. So I'm hoping that they will realize that and stay on American soil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it seems like a very cautious approach, like you said. I don't know that it's it might be more of a bargaining chip, a front that needs to be put out there to make sure that everything is done properly and then that these negotiations go the right way. It's just, it was kind of interesting to see how sort of unified that statement was. And that sends a statement as well to U.S. Soccer, like you said, that it was so unified.
So a little ironic, though, that it was in Boca Raton, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was trying
not saying anything more than that, but a little ironic.
We almost got through a show without that reference. But, yeah, I guess so. I guess it was a little ironic. I think at the end of the day, a lot of them will end up playing here in the U.S., and, we'll see what happens. But it's certainly interesting that happened. And I have to, in their defense, I will say it is very, very understandable on that note of what goes on or what went on or what may have went on in Boca Raton. I think players have been burnt enough and dealt with enough and had enough go on to sit there and say, I'm not getting involved in another circus or, just another ridiculous thing. So I think that's totally fair for them to really demand something out of it. And then it's just, it's basic negotiating of give and take, because it's obviously not going to be anything perfect at this level. So, excuse me. So I think that, it's certainly, granted that they have some reservations about things. So, anything else that you took from that, Kat?
Not much more than, Christy saying that she definitely wants to play, so that's always good.
That is good. Yeah, I'm wondering if she makes it to 2016. That'd be quite a feat for her.
Quite a feat, yeah.
And, everything she's showing right now is that she can, but 4 years is so long, or 3.5. It's a lot of time. So we'll see how that goes. But coming up after the break, Leslie Osborne joins us, Breakers ambassador, Puma ambassador. I don't know. We might have to ask her about the different things she has going on. But Leslie's everywhere, and that is great because we'd love to talk to her about what's going on with this new league. So stick around with us and Leslie Osborne after the break on This Week in Women's Soccer. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. On the phone right now, we have Leslie Osborne, Breakers captain, and probably ambassador is a better word, I would think, Leslie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
Well, Les, I guess I'll get started here. I think the first thing that everybody wants to know, and I think you're a perfect person to ask, is there any new developments that we don't already know? Like we know that Cindy Parlow is the new coach and everything. Is there anything new that is worth telling and that you're able to tell at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things work in progress right now. But yeah, Cindy being named is the big news. I think everyone knows Rory Dames, who was coaching Chicago Red Stars last year, will be coaching again this year. I'm being told that they're trying to figure out coaches for DC. So nothing crazy right now. I also know that, TV networks are, being talked about, negotiated right now. So I don't know anything crazy, just a lot of things are kind of in the works, and also kind of legal stuff that needs to happen pretty quickly in order for player contracts and things to start to continue to move forward.
And what is kind of your opinion on that, the whole player contract aspect of it? Because I know that a lot of people are hearing a lot of different things, and even interviews, the national team players have been pretty vague in answering the question. What are you kind of picking up from anyone?
Yeah, I think that it's, again, a work in progress. I think that there's a lot of things that are trying to happen, and because, all this is happening so quickly, everyone knew at U.S. Soccer, and the owners know this league is so important, and the timing is so important that, to get this league to be, as well prepared and run for 2013, there's a lot to be done. And so I think right now what's happening is there's great steps that have been made, and I think that it's important to make sure that the time is spent to make sure that these contracts and everything is taken care of before making the next step. But at the same time, there's also, the timetable, and it's going to be almost, January 1st, 2013. So it's there's a lot going on, and we have to push to continue to take steps forward. But at the same time, U.S. Soccer and the owners are making sure that every step that they take, that it's a smart step, and so they don't skip any or hurry ahead, because this is our last opportunity to make this work. So it's an interesting time right now to try to move quickly, but move very smartly.
And Leslie, I wanted to ask you you have sort of the personal experience of this allocation process. What's it like being a player on the other end of, these players are writing down where they want to go, and sort of, obviously they're not all getting their first choice. How does that kind of go down in terms of who's getting a second or third choice, and sort of how they deal with that, I guess?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think 4 years ago I was doing this exact thing, and I think it's an interesting thing. And I think what I'm going to say is most important is, yes, it's important that these players are happy where they are, and they would love to go where they want to go. But, it's also important for these markets to make sure that, the player wants to be in their market. And so I think it's a two-way street and two-way road, and just meaning that, both parties are going to want, it's not going to work out perfectly for anybody, and players know that they're going to have to take it for the team and take it for this league and this future and this opportunity that, that players can know they can be happy in different markets and different teams. At the same time, it's very important for these markets and teams to know where these players want to be, because if a player is really happy or wants to be in a certain market, that can create a lot of great energy and marketability and be a big part of their organization. So I think it's an interesting thing. I think that and not everyone's going to be able to have what they ideally have, but I think everyone going into this has to know and hope to know that it's going to work out no matter what, and that this is going to be a great thing if we all believe in it and, make the best out of it. So it's an interesting time, I think, right now for, markets to kind of say where girls want to go and be, but, it's going to be a two-way decision with these markets and players to make sure that, people are as happy as they can going into these situations and making the best out of it.
And Leslie, a lot of people saying that the federation is the difference this time. And us media folks don't necessarily know that much. For the players, what's the difference? Is that really a big thing for the players that they see U.S. soccer and Canada and Mexico involved?
Yeah, I can't speak obviously for primarily the national team girls, but just, the good friends and contacts I have, and coming from me personally, I think that U.S. soccer being involved is huge. They are, such a huge, successful, organization, governing body who has ability and to do so many things that, a lot of what we've tried to do, we weren't able to do. And, they're very smart people. And if they stay involved and stay on top of, making this work, they have the ability to, and they're already doing things that, we weren't able to do from the beginning in the WPS. So, I think what they're doing is a really smart business plan. I think being involved in allocating players and involving other federations is smart. I think having the cap and for the teams to spend for their other players outside the allocated players and the market and model that this league is going to go off by, I think it's a smart one. And I'm thankful for U.S. Soccer getting involved and taking, such an important role. And I think that if we continue to make the right steps and these owners and markets continue to do what the plan is, I think that this can last long term, because when I'm done playing, I really, really would love for other players, to be able to play in this league. And I think that they have given us a platform and a structure that, is so stable, and so many outlets and sponsorships and partnerships and just things that, we haven't been able to have and start off with. So it's huge on their part.
Well, Leslie, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it. I know you're always traveling, so I'm glad we could get you on.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I hope I helped a little bit. And yeah, thank you for all your support in women's soccer and everything you guys do.
We appreciate it. Leslie Osborne, everybody. All right, thanks again to Leslie, who probably had the clearest reception of any guest we've ever had on here. So thank you to her for that as well. Kat, what do you think? Some new detail, not too many new details, but some player perspective, which obviously you have as well.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting what she was talking about, the allocation of players. To me, that's I think to a lot of the players, that's a big deal, because I'm one of those players that, I got to choose where I wanted to be, but it wasn't where I had family. It wasn't where I necessarily had a whole lot of friends. I didn't have a community. And it can wear on you when you're not around, a community that you're familiar with. And when you're having to, Skype your husband every day just to even see him, it gets very difficult. So it's amazing that these teams are there. But, for players that don't get their first choice, I think that is something that a lot of them are afraid of. And they, it could possibly be a deal breaker in some areas. I don't think maybe in the first year it won't be, but that's an interesting aspect, I think, especially because there really isn't, I guess, except for Becky Sauerbrunn, there really isn't anyone close to Kansas City, just like home base wise. So that's what's interesting to me, and that was a topic that she talked about, and it's something that I think we'll hear a lot more after the first of the year. Yeah,
Kansas City is one of those ones I think we're going to be bringing up semi in terms of places where we wonder who is going to go there. I think it'll be interesting to see who gets their first choice, really, because there's the seniority factor of players who have been there and players who have been around for a while. But then what do you do with the likes of an Alex Morgan, who's your second youngest player, but she's also your star? So does she sort of bump up on the seniority list? That's a question that you definitely have to address. I
think there's exceptions, and I think she's one of them, and I think that's what they'll do, because they know how important she is to really any team that goes, and they want to make sure she's one of the happier people. But other than a couple of exceptions, which I can't really think of too many after Alex Morgan, it should go to seniority, and I think it will. I think it will. I mean, it should go by your caps and not age. It should go by caps for sure.
Okay, interesting. And Sydney Leroux actually addressed that, I think, which was cool after the Portland game, maybe one of those games out there. She addressed that she recognizes that as much as she wants to be on the West Coast, she will likely get allocated to the East. So, and that's if she's playing, which is sort of that question mark at this point. But I think it's sort of we talked about that earlier. So, I think it's a question mark that maybe isn't actually a question mark. But so let's get into these end of the year awards. With we got Christmas right around the corner here, and New Year's is obviously there as well. We're going to do some best and worst of the year for you guys, and would love to hear you chime in the comments section, on the Facebook page, email, however you feel you need to argue with us. I think we should just start with the big one, Kat. Player of the year. There's obviously down to 3 now for FIFA, and we certainly don't have to pick from those 3. I think that's a pretty, well, 2 of the 3 certainly are good, and Marta obviously a great player, but as we talked about on previous shows, not quite her year. But if I had to ask you, player of the year, who are you going with?
Alex Morgan. There just really isn't anyone that had the impact. The person that's second on my list is Abby. They just had such an incredible impact, and the way that they came together for the Olympics was just fun to watch. And, she definitely should win FIFA Player of the Year, and she's my Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument from me on this one. I think that is really a 1-2 punch. It's almost seems a bit unfair to have to pick one, because they've just thrived off each other all year, really. And I think one without the other would still be a great player, but to have the year that both of them had, I don't think quite happens. But Alex with the 2020 club, and certainly just those big moments, which we talked about, really factor into voting for a lot of people. And I think that Canada extra time header to send the U.S. through to the final is probably a moment that I don't think anybody, Grant Wall keeps writing about it being one of the best games, men's or women's, ever, and that's certainly accurate. So no argument from me on Player of the Year, Alex Morgan.
Might be the only one for us.
Yeah, I think we haven't revealed each other's picks on a lot of these, but from little chatter, it sounds like we got some differences. So both of us are big on defenders, being defenders ourselves, you at a much higher level. Defender of the Year, because we can't give all the love to forwards. Who you got for Defender of the Year?
I have Saki Kumagai from Japan. I think that she is one of the best all-around players in the world, but she's one of the few Japanese players that can head alongside Abby, and one of the few players in the world that can head alongside Abby, but definitely one of the Japanese players. And she's so skillful, so calm. I did a lot of their games for the Olympics, and you can just see that she's a leader. She might not have the captain armband on her, but she's a leader on that team, and it's hard to get by her, and she's special.
I got to go a slightly more offensive route for Defender of the Year. If you guys are reading along on equalizersoccer.com, I was making a case that England/Great Britain Stephanie Houghton needed to be on that final 10 for the ballot for Player of the Year. I thought she had an incredible year, an incredible Olympics. I have not seen an outside back that is a set-piece specialist like her, possibly at all in the women's game. I'm sure I'm overlooking somebody, but it was very Roberto Carlos-esque to me that she was just this outside back who really just actually bombs forward, takes set pieces, and buries them. And that's probably a little bit disingenuous to her being Defender of the Year, but she is a defender, and I think I've got to get that in there, that she really, I think, got... I think she might have gotten some accolades in England, but I think she got snubbed on international attention. So, got to give...
Good one. I like that one.
Yeah, I got to give her some credit there. I'll start on Coach of the Year, which I think we might disagree on. I think you have to, gold medal year, Pia Sundhage, bringing the U.S. team together. I think that, to me, you look at that U.S. team, and there's plenty of talent, there's plenty of skill, but you need a captain guiding the ship, and I think that one thing that was very clear and that continues to be clear is there is it takes a certain sort of person to make sure that everybody's gelling and make sure that there's a proper chemistry. Even if it's not that everybody loves each other, it's that everybody's clicking on the field. And I think that Pearson Haga did that well. And I have to give a hat tip to Canada's John Herdman, because Canada was absolutely awful at the World Cup under Carolina Marache. And a year later, Herdman has them winning an Olympic bronze medal, which is it was literally worst to third. So quite a turnaround for Canada and under Herdman.
I think that's also where we agree with the hat tip is to Herdman. It's I think if he had gotten to the final game, he would have definitely been Coach of the Year, taking a pretty abysmal Canada team that has a lot of talent, but they just weren't able to gel. And just like you talked with Pia, John figured out a way to gel them, and he did it extremely well. They were a completely different team, a complete 180 from the 2011 World Cup. But my Coach of the Year actually is Steve Swanson. I think that I know I went for the younger level, but our U20s needed a little bit of a revamp, and he went over, and it didn't seem like it was very promising when we got beat by Germany 4-0. But yet he was able to bring them together, and I talked to him a couple of times. He wouldn't even let them wear their school, jerseys or any paraphernalia, because he wanted them all to feel like they're all part of one team, and there's nothing in the way of that. Plus, he won the ACC championship for Virginia this year. Put on a clinic in that, and the ACC is the hardest conference in the country. They didn't do as well in the NCAA tournament, but still the ACC is pretty close to as hard as the NCAA tournament. And they actually lost to Duke. So it's like you lost to another ACC foe. So that would be my Coach of the Year.
That is spoken like a Tar Heel right there.
True ACC gal.
All right. That's a good point. Having the success on the collegiate level as well as the U20s, that certainly was a revival to go in there and beat Germany in that final, which is probably a good segue into Young Player of the Year. And frankly, I'm going to be straight with you here. Young Player of the Year is a little bit of a toss-up for me, and it's too weak to go with a three-way tie. So I think I probably have to give it to Kaylee High, which is that tie-in to ACC again and the U20s and having that huge year. I mean, you score in...
And UNC.
Yeah. I mean, you score in a World Cup final. You score in a college cup final, and I think you have to give it to her. But I think overlooked in this, and I don't know if you're going to touch on this, and this is the unfortunate part of not being able to see things really overseas. Sarah Hagan and Lindsay Horan going overseas and doing some really special things. Two very young players who are having quite a good year over in Germany and France, respectively. So I think we need to keep our eyes out for them. We just need to actually be able to see them. So hopefully we'll see them in some red, white, and blue perhaps very soon.
Yeah, I wish we could actually see them on American soil.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that I didn't like the move that they made. I'm not going to be shy to express that. I think that, it probably will benefit them, but, I don't want that to become too much of a trend when it comes to women's soccer going overseas, that kind of thing. I could go way into it, but they're not my Young Player of the Year. Kalia Ohai was definitely up there for me. But Crystal Dunn, to me, she assisted on the game winner for both the World Cup final and in the semifinal of the NCAA tournament goal to Ohai. And she just, to me, could step into the national team right now and play a major part, be an impact player right now. And I don't see that in any other player quite yet of that age group in the youth team. I just think that there's something special with her. She can play midfield, she can play forward, she can play outside back. And outside back is something that the U.S. definitely is going to be playing with a lot, in these next few years before the World Cup. And I think she's going to step in and be impressive.
Okay. A little more Tar Heel reference. All right. We got
Yeah, it's hard to, except for Mac Herman Award too. So
I
played against her. I know how hard she is to play against.
Yeah, and then I mean, even me, I had Horan almost going to UNC, and then sort of switching roles there. But all right, comeback of the year, Kat. Who you got for this?
Mine goes to Amari Sawa. I think that she came off such an incredible year in 2011, FIFA World Player of the Year, leading her team to a World Cup, and then gets diagnosed with vertigo and has to take a few months off, and you don't have much of a quick turnaround between the World Cup and the Olympics. And I know that she was amazing the year before, but to have vertigo, which I've seen on the sidelines a lot with Roy Williams, the North Carolina men's basketball coach, where he'll be yelling and enough oxygen won't go to his head, and he'll just all of a sudden, have to go down on the ground because he starts to get really dizzy. And to play soccer, you don't have enough oxygen, that's for sure. And for her to play through it, and she may have not been at her best as she was in 2011, but she was still impressive enough to lead her team to a silver medal.
Mm-hmm. And mine, I think I purposely phrased as comeback of the year, not comeback player, because I have to go with Canada. Just back to what I was saying about Herdman, going from a terrible, terrible World Cup where certain journalists who picked them to finish very highly at the 2011 World Cup looked absolutely silly, and then that journalist losing faith in them and not picking them in the Olympics, and they decide to go ahead and win a bronze medal. I think that's quite a turnaround, and a lot of that is to do with Herdman, but you're looking at a lot of the same players as well. So it was really sort of a total package for me of a coaching effort and really a comeback effort there. So I have to go with Canada. But certainly, a good point that even though Sawa was Player of the Year last year, the way that her year started, it was looking very ominous for her. So, good on her to get back into things and get that silver medal. How about best moment of the year, Kat? What do you got?
I have a tie, and it's just hard to deny the gold medal and the World Cup win of U20s and the national team. That's the best moment. Whenever you see a team raise up a trophy, can't beat that. Can't beat it.
Yeah, I mean definitely, but I can't. I can forget the USA Japan game, to be honest. Like if I'm 80 years old, I can be sitting there and forget the USA Japan game, and I remember that the US won gold. I don't think I will ever forget that U.S.-Canada game, that semifinal in the Olympics. So I have to go with that. I mean, just the absolute, from the drama of it to the absurdity of it with some of those calls. I mean, it just had everything. And I think it's one that we will talk about, for a very, very long time. So I think that's going to have to be my best moment. It could probably qualify for worst moment if you're a Canadian too. So
yeah.
Let's go with worst moment. What did you see that sort of I don't know, that was just absurd to you, rubbed you the wrong way? I mean, what was it?
Well, I'm going to go to that Canada-U.S. match and say the worst moment was the fact that FIFA decided to suspend Christine Sinclair for 4 games. I think that's absolutely preposterous, especially when they only suspended the girl who punched Abby in the face 2 games. FIFA just basically trying to cover up themselves yet again, and to suspend someone of a quality human being as Christine Sinclair for 4 games is the worst thing I've ever heard of, and I couldn't believe it. And they should. To me, I'll be impressed if you can top that, because I've been so upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't agree with that. I thought it was a bit harsh, to say the least, and I get where they're coming from with her, bashing the ref in a way, which it really wasn't. I mean, she did, but it wasn't terrible in my book.
There's been worse.
Yeah, but I get where they're coming from with it. I certainly don't agree with it. But that is a good point about Lady Andrade punching Abby and not getting as much for that. But worst moment I think I have, I'll do another hat tip, but these late buses to WPSL was my moment, I think, or moments, because when it happened once, I said, this is absurd. Like, this just can't happen. And then it happened like 4 times. And it happened in the W League once, too. It happened with Colorado Rapids going into Vancouver, I want to say. And, it was just unbelievable that this Philadelphia Fever team did it at least twice. One to you guys in Boston, And then the one that just makes me laugh is they tried to get to Long Island, and they ended up going through Times Square on a big bus. And I don't know how you do that, but you got these kickoffs going an hour late, and then you've got people trying to tell us that this is going to be a very professional league, and that just to me was like the epitome of a lot of things that were wrong with what was going on in that little stretch from I guess really January or before up until the middle of summer, up until the Olympics. So that, and then I just have to throw in that South Africa-Japan game where some people are on different they're on different ends with this. Maybe it's a polarizing subject, but Japan intentionally playing to a tie against South Africa is like, I don't know. I really didn't dig that, but I get, tactically what they were trying to do in it.
I had to announce that game, let me tell you.
It got them to the final, so credit to, but that was pretty miserable. That was one of the games that I definitely watched more loosely because I saw what was going on, and there was just more work to be done than to watch them play to a draw like that. So last one, let's look towards 2013, Kat. Story or player to watch, or what are you looking out for in 2013?
Got to say Tom Sermanni. See what he's going to do with this team, and I think that there's a lot of national team players pretty nervous about what's going to happen, and a lot of media is very intrigued as to what's going to happen. There's so many personalities on that team, and he's going to have to figure out a way to handle them all, and if he wants them all on that stage together again. I don't know if you can, 4 years later, keep that team the same that they are now. It will be interesting to see what happens. I guess 3 years. It'll be interesting to see what happens and how he handles it.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely a good point. I think anything with NWSL, I mean there's a whole list of things that we could come up with that we're looking for, but I think NWSL, just as those 4 letters, is something that we'll have to monitor and see what's going on and how things progress. But I'd also like to see some developing news with Ali Krieger coming back stateside. I'd like to see how she fits into that team because we're talking so much about outside backs. Obviously she was a very good one for the U.S. in 2011. We'll see what she does in 2013 and how she sort of factors into that. So I'd like to add that one in as well. But NWSL, I think, along with Sermanni, I mean, there's a lot going on in 2013, despite it being, kind of a off year of sorts in women's soccer. So we'll look towards it. And I guess with that, if we don't see you, if you don't click play on us again before the new year, thanks for joining us through the different renditions of this show. It's good to have Kat on. Really appreciate it. Boosting up the show here. So thanks for joining us this whole year. And hopefully 2013 is a better one and a good one. Not to say this one was bad at all, but we're looking forward to what happens. A lot going on, like we just said, with the U.S. and NWSL. So, Kat, you got any resolutions or anything?
Ooh,
I caught you off guard.
I haven't gone there in my head yet. Yeah, I don't know. Come back better than I was last year as a player.
Yeah,
that's my first one. I'm going after it pretty hard with this new league just to see if I should keep playing or not. So this year will be an answer to that.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck with that, and we will be keeping in touch on that, obviously. So, well, thanks everybody, and I hope you have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Anything else I missed, enjoy.
Happy Christmas.
There we go.